Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something that's, well, it's part medical thriller, part personal tragedy, and honestly, a kind of high-stakes romance. We are digging into Dead Man Dreaming by Uday Mukherjee.
Yeah, it's a heavy one today, but it's also incredibly hopeful in a strange, roundabout way.
It really is. And look, usually when we say medical thriller, you're thinking, what, pandemics, rogue doctors, some fast-paced hospital drama?
Right.
But this story is different. It's about the code that's already inside of us.
Yeah.
It asks this terrifying question. If your DNA had a ticking time bomb in it, would you even want to know?
And more importantly, if you did know, what's your moral obligation to the next generation?
Exactly. It takes that whole ignorance is bliss versus knowledge is power debate and just raises the stakes to life or death.
Right. We're following the life of a man, David, who basically tries to engineer his way out of a biological curse.
Okay, so let's set the scene for you. We are dropping right into the middle of the tension. It's 2012. We're in Christchurch Hospital, and we meet David.
And you have to understand who David is in this exact moment. He's the archetype of perfection. He's the topper.
The guy who aced everything.
He crushed every exam. So he's walking down this Hall of Fame corridor, and the book mentions these loud, click-clacking leather shoes.
Oh, yeah, the shoes.
That his girlfriend, Chloe, made him wear to look professional.
And that detail really matters. He's just moments away from his dream job.
Becoming a heart surgeon.
And you have to think about the psychology here. To be a heart surgeon, you need a level of confidence that, it borders on arrogance, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It is not a job for the timid. In the text, David calls the operating theater a sacred place.
Right.
He talks about the margin for error being less than a nanometer. He really believes he's ready to hold a human life in his hands. He's seen this moment for years.
So he walks into the Viva, the final oral interview. He's facing the gatekeepers, Dr. Tyler, Dr. Fisher, Dr. Miller.
The titans of the hospital.
And he just destroys it. He answers every single complex medical question they throw at him. He feels like he's floating. He stands up to leave, shakes their hands, and he's thinking, I've done it. I'm in.
And then, gravity happens.
The shoes, those fancy leather shoes.
There's a catch on a chair leg. He stumbles. It's a nothing moment, really. A split second of clumsiness. Anyone would do it.
But Dr. Fisher, one of the interviewers, he doesn't see it as just clumsiness. He freezes.
And he asks a question that, frankly, sounds totally illegal in a job interview.
I gasped when I read this part. He just asks flat out, do you have Huntington's disease, David? Just like that, because he tripped.
It feels incredibly invasive.
Can you even do that? Can you ask a candidate about their genetic history in a job interview? That has to be a massive privacy violation.
In almost any other job, you'd be right. You can't ask an accountant if they have a genetic risk for cancer. But this is where the nuance of the medical world kicks in.
Okay.
David's father died of Huntington's disease, or HD, and it's public knowledge in their small medical community.
Still, though, to ask it so bluntly.
Well, think about what HD is. It's an autosomal dominant disorder. Meaning if one parent has it, the child has a 50-50 chance of inheriting it. It's a coin toss. And the symptoms are brutal, involuntary jerking movements, tremors, cognitive decline. Now, think about the job.
Heart surgeon.
Exactly. If you're hiring a pilot, you check their vision. If you're hiring a heart surgeon, you need hands that are steadier than a rock.
So a tremor at the wrong second
Kills the patient. So Dr. Fisher isn't asking to be cruel. He's doing a risk assessment on the most important piece of surgical equipment, David's hands.
It's a cold way to see it, but I get it. So David's cornered. He has to admit he's never been tested. He says, I'm better off not knowing.
He's been banking on that 50% chance that he's fine, just living in denial.
Which is a very human thing to do.
Oh, absolutely. Denial is a powerful drug. But the board, they call his bluff. They offer him the job, but it's conditional.
Conditional how?
He has to take the test. They force him to look inside that box.
Wow. So he goes to the genetic counselor, Dr. Bergman. He gets the blood draw. He waits.
And the result comes back. It's positive. He has the mutation.
And this is where that title, Dead Man Dreaming, really clicks into place.
He basically receives what he sees as a death warrant. But here's the twist. The hospital still wants him.
This surprised me. They actually say, look, you're pre-symptomatic. You're fine for now. Take the job. We'll just monitor you.
They did. They were willing to take that risk. But David wasn't.
And most people would take that deal, right? You've worked your whole life for this. You might have 10, maybe 15 good years. Why turn it down?
Because David is an absolutist. He realizes that monitoring isn't good enough. What if the first symptom isn't a twitch while he's eating dinner, but a slip of the scalpel inside a patient's chest?
He can't live with that risk.
He can't. He imagines failing a patient because his own biology betrayed him. So he declines. He turns down the surgery position and pivots to a desk job in R&D.
He grounds himself before he can crash. It's ethics over his dream.
Yeah.
But he doesn't just nuke his career. He nukes his personal life, too. He breaks up with Chloe.
And this part is so complicated because Chloe wants to stay. She really does.
She represents that optimist's view. She's willing to take the risk, even have kids with them. She's banking on that 50-50 chance again. She believes love conquers all.
And David is the opposite. He's the protective realist. He watched his father die. He knows the horror of this disease, the loss of control, the indignity.
I mean, he won't pass it on.
He refuses to inflict that on a child, and he refuses to turn Chloe into his caretaker. There's that scene with the coffee cup that it stuck with me.
The big black mug she gave him.
Yeah, he's at home, he's spiraling, and he sees this mug. And instead of using it, he just throws it in the sink and grabs an old chipped one.
It's like he's practicing living without her.
It's a symbolic act of pre-mourning. He's erasing her from his life because he thinks he's saving her. It's tragic. He loves her too much to let her stay.
So he's completely isolated. His career is derailed. His future's a blank. He calls himself a dead man dreaming. And his mother, watching her brilliant son just disintegrate. She does something desperate.
She buys him a plane ticket to Italy. She sends him to Venice.
And Venice isn't just some random vacation spot in the story. It becomes the central metaphor that drives everything else.
Think Venice is sinking?
It is. It's a city that's constantly under threat from the sea. And David is there. He's miserable. He's just walking around this beautiful, dying city. But then he learns about the MOSE project.
The flood barriers.
Exactly. This massive engineering project, a series of retractable gates at the lagoon inlets. When the tide gets too high, these gates rise up and block the sea from drowning the city.
And that's the epiphany.
It is. David looks at these barriers and he thinks, okay, you can't stop the sea. The sea is just nature. It exists, just like genetic mutations exist. You can't just wish them away.
But you can build a wall. You can build a barrier to stop the sea from getting in.
So he shifts from being a victim, I have this disease, I'm doomed, to being an engineer. He starts asking, how do I stop this disease from getting into the next generation?
Precisely. He realizes the solution isn't just about curing the person who is already sick. That's incredibly hard. The real solution is preventing transmission, building a biological barrier.
He comes home with his fire to build the barrier, but he's just one guy with a theory. He needs a partner.
And he finds one in the most unlikely place you could imagine, Harry's bar.
Enter Jessie, the high school mean girl.
The head cheerleader who would not have given David the time of day back then. Now she's waiting tables.
It's a classic trope, but the author flips it here. We expect her to be shallow, but life has really humbled her. She got married young, her husband left her, and now she's raising her son, Lucas, all by herself.
And we find out Lucas has severe hemophilia A.
And we should probably clarify what that is for anyone who might not know. It's different from Huntington's.
Sure. Unlike Huntington's, which is a dominant gene that affects the brain, hemophilia A is an X-linked recessive disorder. It mostly affects boys. And it means Lucas's blood doesn't clot properly.
So a simple cut
Can be life-threatening. A fall, a bruise, things that are minor for us. For him, they're emergencies. He's missing the protein that stops the bleeding.
So Jessie is just living in this constant state of high alert.
High alert and honestly financial ruin. The treatment is incredibly expensive. She's working double shifts just to keep him alive, terrified every single time he goes out to play.
So you have David, who's afraid of his own future, and Jessie, who is terrified of her present. Both are victims of this genetic lottery.
And that shared trauma connects them. But Jessie brings something that David is missing. David thinks like a doctor. He's thinking about gene editing, complex science. Jessie's a mother. She's practical.
And she's the one who connects the Venice barrier idea to something so much simpler.
The fitness test. Right. She argues, look, we test pilots, we test firefighters, we test cars before we let them on the road to make sure they're safe.
And parenting is the most consequential job there is.
So why don't we have a fitness test for our genes before we decide to conceive?
It's just a rebranding of carrier screening, really.
It is, but the branding is everything. Carrier screening sounds clinical, optional, maybe even a little scary. Parental fitness test sounds like a responsibility, a standard safety check.
So they launch a website. It's a scrappy little operation, just David, Jessie, her mom, and her sister Lucy in Chicago, who's helping with the tech stuff.
And it goes viral. They go from a few hundred hits to thousands.
Right.
And reading the user comments in the text, That's where you feel the real emotional weight of this. It's not just stats.
No, it's this global chorus of, if only I had known. The source quotes a mother in Texas whose child has sickle cell anemia, a father from Auckland whose son has cystic fibrosis.
These are people who love their kids desperately, but they are crushed by the guilt of passing on a preventable disease. The website gives them a place to say, I wish I'd been screened.
But it's not all supportive. They get hate mail.
Oh, yeah. Real vitriol. People accusing them of playing God, of eugenics.
This is the inevitable backlash, right?
It is. Anytime you talk about genetic selection, critics argue you're devaluing the lives of people who already have these conditions.
There's that one email from Mrs. Blatter. Her son has Down syndrome. And she asks, how would your test have helped me? My son is a blessing.
And this is a really crucial distinction that they have to make, and one we should make here too. Down syndrome is usually a chromosomal abnormality. It's an error in cell division that happens randomly.
Is that usually inherited?
Exactly. The parental fitness test they're proposing is strictly for single-gene hereditary diseases. Cystic fibrosis, SMA, Huntington's, things where the parents are carriers and pass it down like a baton.
So they're not trying to eliminate all disability. They're trying to give parents a map of the hereditary landmines.
That's it. It's about informed consent for procreation. If you know you both carry the gene for cystic fibrosis, you have a 1 in 4 chance of having a sick child. With that knowledge, you can choose IVF, you can choose adoption, you can choose not to roll the dice, you can build the barrier.
And while they're fighting these theoretical battles online, the reality of the disease just comes crashing back home. Lucas, Jessie's son, he falls down the stairs.
It's a terrifying scene. He's just a kid running to say goodnight, slips on the carpet, knocks over a porcelain vase. It shatters. He cuts his hand.
For a normal kid, that's a Band-Aid and some tears. For Lucas, it's a hemorrhage.
They rush to the hospital. There's blood everywhere. Jessie is panicked. And who is the doctor on call?
Dr. Miller, the same guy from David's interview. The guy who saw him stumble.
The circle closes. Dr. Miller saves the boy, but the incident just shakes David to his core. He sees the absolute terror in Jessie's eyes.
And he realizes his venous barrier isn't just an idea for a website.
No, it's the difference between a normal childhood and one spent in emergency rooms fighting for your life.
It lights a fire under them. They decide to scale up. They need to do more than just run a website. They have to change the culture. Lucy, the sister, crunches the numbers, says they need millions.
So David goes back to the Lion's Den. He pitches Christchurch Hospital, the very place that diagnosed him and ended his career, to sponsor them.
And at first, Dr. Tyler's on board. He sees the medical value. I mean, prevention is always cheaper and more humane than a cure.
But then the rug gets pulled out. The board rejects it.
Why? I mean, they have the data. Why say no?
It comes down to ideology. Christchurch is a missionary hospital, and the board decides that promoting genetic screening, which implies things like IVF or selecting embryos, conflicts with their religious stance on procreation.
They see it as interfering with the sanctity of life.
They don't want to be involved in selecting who gets born.
That is just so frustrating, to have the science on your side but be blocked by dogma.
It's a realistic conflict, though. Science doesn't operate in a vacuum. But Dr. Tyler, to his credit, he redeems himself a bit. He can't use hospital money, but he has connections. He introduces them to a European pharma company in Zurich.
A pivot to big pharma.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
These companies research genetic drugs. They have a vested interest in genetic awareness. It's a symbiotic relationship. They find the carriers, they find their market, but they also help the mission.
So David and Jessie fly to New York, then Zurich. They get the funding. They're going global. But I want to pause on the relationship here. Because while all this is happening,
it's messy.
It's so messy. Chloe, the ex-girlfriend, actually comes back as a volunteer for the website for a bit.
Which must have been excruciatingly awkward. Imagine working with your ex and your potential new love interest on a project all about genetics.
It just highlights the gap between them, doesn't it? Chloe is there. She's trying to be supportive, but she still fundamentally believes in taking the chance. She's the optimist.
Right. She tells David she would have risked it. But David and Jessie, they're the realists. They've lived with the damage. And eventually, Chloe realizes she doesn't fit in this world of barriers and prevention.
She quits. She says it's for exams, but really she's accepting that they're on different paths.
Which clears the runway for Jessie. And we have to talk about that date in Zurich, because Jessie drops a bombshell.
She does. David takes her to dinner, a proper date, finally, and Jessie admits that the whole dumb blonde persona she had in high school It was an act.
It was camouflage.
I love this part. She did it to avoid bullies.
She did it to lower expectations. She figured out that if people think you're dim, they just leave you alone. You get me time. Turns out, she's incredibly sharp, reads constantly.
She was the strategist behind the whole thing. It wasn't just David's genius. It was her vision that packaged it and made it work for the public.
It's a true partnership. They're two people society might label as damaged goods, one with a fatal gene, one with the burden of a sick child, and they build something incredible together.
And that's really the resolution of his arc. David started the story as a man who thought his life was over because he couldn't be a surgeon. He defined himself by what he could do with his hands.
Then by the end,
he realizes his value isn't in cutting hearts open. It's in making sure those hearts are built correctly in the first place. He becomes a different kind of healer. A preventative architect, if you will.
It's such a powerful shift. He took his own tragedy and turned it into a shield for other people.
Exactly. And I think that brings us to the real takeaway for everyone listening.
Right, because most of us hopefully don't have Huntington's. But we all have DNA. We all carry this code.
And the book forces you to confront that head-in-the-sand syndrome. We avoid genetic testing because we're afraid of bad news. We think, if I don't know, it can't hurt me.
But David's story proves the bad news is there whether you read the report or not. The cliff is there. The only question is, do you want to see the map?
It reframes knowledge. It's not a burden. It's a duty, especially if you're thinking about having children. If a simple saliva test could prevent a lifetime of suffering for your child, is not knowing really an acceptable excuse anymore?
Or is ignorance actually a form of negligence?
That's the uncomfortable question we have to sit with. In an age of information, can we really afford to be biologically illiterate about ourselves?
A tough one to chew on, but that's why we're here. That's Dead Man Dreaming, a story about looking the monster in the eye and building a wall to keep it out.
Well said. Thanks for diving deep with us.
You might want to go check your family history, folks.
See you next time.